Good evening, ladies and gents. It's the 19th of January 2025, and this is going to be a short discussion about concerns coming out of America over the last, let's say, 2 weeks now. We need to get this out of the way now. For some of you, this is going to be old news anyway, but nevertheless, I've got some other news which is a lot more important than this that I need to get sort of out there today. So let's just get this one done. Again, guys, it's just going to be I'm just going to throw up some slides. It's going to be a quick one, so hopefully I'm not going to waste too much of your time. I really don't know where to start with this other than Trump has lost the plot and he's, he's not even sworn in yet. I think it's tomorrow, isn't it? He's going to be sworn in. So, let the show begin. Some of the shit that's been coming out of his mouth over the last, few weeks is borderline in insanity. If no one's got any idea what I'm talking about Trump and how he thinks he needs the Panama Canal and Greenland for economical security. Personally, do what the fuck you want with the Panama Canal because America was stupid enough to give that away in the first place. And to say that Greenland is a strategic land base, he's 100% right. As it's always been with the run up to and during any sort of previous war that we've had. The US have littered Greenland with all of its rubbish. And I mean things like sort of old military vehicles, radars, early warning systems, and your telecommunications kits such as satellite dishes and all the rest of it. And that was sort of equipment and stuff that was left behind during World War II. I can see exactly why Trump is eyeing up Greenland. Remember, guys, Trump is a businessman and he's got a business head. So with the ice cap in the north of the planet within the Arctic Circle is melting. And with that, there's just going to be many more opportunities opening up for many different countries in that region. New shipping lanes for trade. And as I've just said, Greenland is a strategic location, certainly during these testing times with relationships with Russia are quickly deteriorating. Now, in times of war against Russia, Greenland is without a doubt a key location. As the ice melts on those seas within the Arctic Circle, there are countries starting to take claim to those sort of territorial waters at the moment. Canada are pretty much borderlines, always on the border of Greenland anyway, so they're definitely in the mix. Norway is obviously in the mix, and Denmark most certainly is. And whilst we're talking about Denmark, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and the monarch of Denmark has executive power. Back in the 14th century, Norway became part of Denmark. The Treaty of Kiel gave Denmark final control over Greenland back in 1814, but then Norway claimed, I think it was the eastern part section of the country. But that claim was successfully disputed back in 1933, and Denmark has had full control of Greenland ever since. But let's talk about this guy, okay? Let's listen to what this idiot sort of saying. Trump is waffling on about the US buying Greenland. The same conversation I think he was having when he was last back in term. So this geezer is clearly smoking crack during his lunch breaks, whilst maybe sitting on his phone, having a good old chat with his pal Putin, and selling ice cream in a park somewhere. Honestly, people, you should be taking anything at the moment that Trump is saying with just a pinch of salt, because that's just not happening. He's talking about Greenland like it's a packet of biscuits on the shelf in the supermarket. This guy is deluded. And then to threaten Denmark with high tariffs, it's just all bollocks. Honestly, he's not even in office yet, and he's not much different to Putin. That's probably why the pair of idiots sort of get on. So to be threatening another country with all sorts of shit if he can't have Greenland, in fact, actually, in my eyes, is worse than Putin. See, Putin has gone into Ukraine that used to be under Soviet Union, and in its control, as in Russia's control or Putin's control or whoever's control back then during the Cold War. I'm not saying for 1 minute that Putin is a good guy here, guys. Um, So don't start losing your shit. But what I am trying to say is that Trump is in fact worse. He's trying to claim something that isn't his, has never been an American soil, and to finish this little piece off, he never will. Politicians are dangerous. They're dangerous human beings. They stab each other in the back at any given moment, and then they're sort of kissing and making up, not long afterwards, telling their nations how they're, going to make things better, when in fact, they've got no idea what they're doing. Parliament and government is a playground for idiots, saying one thing now and a different set of comments, not long down the road. And when questioned about their actions, they don't even answer the questions presented to them. They're trained to deflect questions with all sorts of bullshit, and they simply insult people's intelligence. When things go wrong, the knives come out, and they're stabbing each other in the back in a fight to take the leader's place. If they're found guilty or not fulfilling their promises, then they blame the previous government. And that's the sort of, this is the sort of stuff that we're seeing here in the UK amongst the governments at the moment. See, I hate politics, and here I am talking about it. So this is going to be the first and last time we're going to be discussing this shit, because I'm just wasting your time and mine. But let's just get it out of the way anyway. We were talking about the UK tax receipts. I think it was on a previous video, with regards to the UK government and how much they receive each year from the people, which is paid into the pot, that being tax. So for the financial year of 23-24, it was 1.1 trillion, which is, I think it was 1,024 billion pounds into the government pot through tax receipts. The new Labour government come into power and haven't stopped moaning about how the Conservatives left the Labour Party with a 40 billion pound hole or deficit or debt, whatever you want to call it, which shortly changed to then 22 billion. And Labour felt that this was their get out clause for not implementing financial investments and growth and other investments into, or improvements, should we say, into the UK. Remember what I just said there, though, guys. The government received 1,024 billion, but they're currently moaning about a 22 billion hole or deficit left behind by the Conservative Party. See, politicians, they don't understand two things. That is money and taxes, which almost never feature properly in their the economic models or any of their teachings in terms of the results that that they present. So there's no wonder why their forecasts, that being the government's forecasts, are always wrong. Some of the activities that have been happening over the last few weeks or so in many parts are embarrassing, nearly as embarrassing as those, people out there that believe the fucking earth is flat. Now, listen, if you are one of those people and you're listening to this video, I would suggest you just move on, because if you believe for 1 minute that the earth is flat, then you're never ever going to understand what we're discussing here. There's a lot of political hype at the moment with these two. Not these two that are on the screen, but one of them at the moment, right? And all of them. So let's start with Trump. Trump and his best mate Elon Musk. Those two also have hidden agendas in my eyes. Certainly when we're talking about any opportunities here in the UK, and what I mean by that is business. These two are on it. Not these two, sorry, Musk and Trump. I should have put a picture up of them two first. Why on God's earth would the world's richest man want to be making sort of financial offers to the Reform political party here in the UK? To the tune, I think, of 80 million pounds. Now, I don't even know if that's true. He says it's not, but anyway, let's just go with it. He wouldn't be doing this unless he was going to get something out of it. And of course, if in fact, like I just said, that claim is true, and I'm not going to listen. Let's not give it any traction, actually, because we don't know. Let me tell you what I think that they're up to. When Trump was president last time, he was talking about tapping into the UK for privatizing the NHS as an example, because that is quite frankly a business opportunity. However, trade deals do not have the power to stop the NHS being a free universal service, but either reconstructing or restructuring and sort of back in the private healthcare arm is already in play. So you'll know that if you've been in and out of hospitals, or you'll know that there's private healthcare beds that can be found in all hospitals in the UK. And I'm not talking just about the private hospitals, but the government obviously pay private healthcare or the sector to deal with customers, if or clients or patients that are on the NHS, and what I'm trying to say is we've got the NHS, which is a public service, and we've got the private healthcare that are just intertwined with each other. So that's already, the infrastructure is kind of there. Or with the what I'm trying to say is it's not like somebody's just going to rock up with a business idea, business plan, and say, listen, let's just flip this on its back and privatize the whole lot. It's kind of already there, so the seeds have already been sown. But anyway, listen, let's move on. Um, that's how the American health system works, and it's worth billions. So it's as simple as that. Healthcare is a business. Pumping the very people though, that are working and paying into the pot each month with medications. Um, that they have to sort of pay for to keep the engine going, and then charging those people for additional healthcare. This is America I'm talking about. Anyway, Trump wasn't around long enough to close that deal. That deal being the one I'm talking about in the UK, and all bets were off. So there you have it. But were all bets off? See, since then, the NHS has slowly deteriorated. We all know that. We can see that. Waiting lists for operations and treatment have risen now to 6.3 million. Ladies and gents, if you're on a waiting list for anything serious, then you could be in grave danger. 6.3 million is unsustainable. It's a bit like the US debt at 37 trillion in debt. They'll never pay that off. But I think there could be forces at play here, a bit like the pandemic, man-made out of China, and well, it killed off people in a position of weakness, firstly, whether that be through health or age, the failing of the NHS. The people that will be suffering are going to be those in a position of weakness, again, including those with no money. So if it's privatized and you've got no money, you're done. And you're going to have no choice but to sit on those unsustainable waiting lists if in fact, you're in a position to pay for that treatment anyway. They're forcing the nation to go private. See, in America, if you can't afford to pay for your healthcare, then you're fucked. Hence the reason why 25%, at least 25% of Americans say that they have delayed any kind of medical treatment for serious illnesses due to the cost of care. Only here in the UK, we don't have to pay for this care outside of national insurance contributions, that is. So instead, let's let the people down, force them onto unsustainable waiting lists, and eventually they'll die. Now I know that sounds harsh, guys, but let me explain it anyway. You have to have the ability, and I keep saying this, but the ability to look at the bigger picture, meaning try and look at the country as a whole, kind of sort of envisage yourself looking down from above on the country, and you'll see the engine, because that's exactly, well, it's exactly what this country is, and many others around the world. Many call it the system, and the system has to be managed. The UK system being run by Labour at the moment is further impacting the damage. Let's be real, shall we say? But then is it? See, the UK government received 1,024 billion or 1.1 trillion into the pot during, like I said, 2023, 2024 financial year. And let's start with this, shall we? See, the government then paid out 284 billion. Yeah, that's right. 284 billion, which is a quarter of that yearly tax receipt. That was paid out to people here in the UK on benefits. That is the engine being paid 1.1 trillion and handing out 284 billion to people who are sat there on their asses doing fuck all. But listen, I'm going to rephrase that somewhat, or shall I? Let me just explain it. There are 1.4 million people unemployed, no job, and one would expect looking for work, whilst there are 34 million people currently working here in the UK. You then have what they call inactive people or economically inactive. So what does that mean? There are 9 million people here in the UK inactive. They say that there's 2.3 million students, 1.6 million looking after family and or home. There are 175,000 people on temporary sick, and there's 2.4 million people on long-term sick. So we have 1.1 million people retired, and there are a million people in a category with no name other than other. So the most concerning piece of information here is that it states, let me just bring it up. It states that there are 1.5 million people out there, or out of the inactive lot, that want a job. This is 1.5 million people that want a job. And then there are 7.2 million people that don't. Right, listen, I don't even know what that means. 7.2 million people that don't want a job. Most of us don't want a job, unless it's our dream job, or we're getting paid shitloads of money for doing it. Now, like I say, I'm not sure what that means. People are not wanting jobs. That depends on what their statuses are, I suppose, and what are the government doing to make those changes to those people. So breaking this down just a little bit more, I won't spend too much time on this, guys, but I just want you to listen. There's a method to this madness at the end of it. Just so people understand this figure, those 2.5 million students that I just spoke about are all in higher education, most full-time students, and they're studying for degrees. And between 20 to 40% of those students end up working alongside their degree in the field of study. So 60% of university students end up working somewhere else, which isn't a problem. Well, it's not a problem because they're working, but it is kind of a problem, isn't it? Because they're wasting 3 years, a minimum of 3 years of their life in education, getting themselves in a world of debt, earning a piece of paper that has been of no use. And for those people, many don't work while studying either, and therefore they're not paying into the pot and ultimately inactive. So there are 1.6 million people at home looking after family, and that can be because they have, I don't know, they have somebody at home that isn't well, excuse me, or needs some kind of level of care. I'm not sure what looking after the home means, but let's forget about that. Moving on to the sick people, because there's plenty of them out there. There's 1.5 million people genuinely seriously sick and are quite frankly unable to work. But there are those that are on temporary sick. This number is actually low at 175,000, but the long-term sick people is at 2.4 million. That's 2.4 million people on long-term sick. Many of those on long-term sick, they could be waiting for treatment and are sat on that never-ending waiting list with the NHS that is unsustainably fucked. If you're retired, then you're retired. You've done your bit. And it's time for you to put your feet up if you can, that is. So all I'm saying here is try and look at this from the government's view, just for 1 minute. The government are poorly managing this country at the moment. That's clear. But they're making some of these decisions with intent. So it's practically like saying, let's kill off the elderly and sick. Let's bring in a few 100,000 immigrants to plug some holes, because that's exactly what they're doing. And then privatise the NHS, because all of those lazy bastards that are sat around pretending to be sick when they're not will be fucked anyway when they become ill, because they won't be in a position to pay for their healthcare anyway. See, the UK government have quite frankly weakened the nation, in my view, with the help of other sources and outlets allowing people to, I don't know, take advantage of the system. allowing and orchestrating the movement of young 18 to 35-year-old healthy male immigrants, this is, into the country to do the jobs those lazy British think that they're too good to do. Either way, a civil servant actually once said to me, he said to me, it doesn't matter what colour your skin is, nor the language that comes out of your mouth. As long as you're paying into the pot, that being tax, then that's all the government are really interested in. And listen, that is exactly what the government are there for, to manage this country. And with that, whether you like it or not, you are a government asset. That and me, we all are, and we're merely a number. Okay, I know that's harsh, but that's pretty much what we are. The government aren't there to be a friend. Okay, so you need to get that out of your heads quickly. Also, just remember this, ladies and gents, and this is whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not as well. And if you choose to go through life with that bubble on your head or not, the whole of Europe are on a war footing, and the whole of NATO across the entire European infrastructure is being upgraded to support the movement of military assets, and that is towards the Russian border in preparation for war. Economies are all over the place at the moment. They're struggling in many countries, and the potential regional wars either waiting to ignite or they're on the verge of overspilling into other regions. That's happening. Do not listen to mainstream news and half of the shit on my social media. I completely forget and ignore much of the crap that's coming out of Trump's mouth right now. The geezer's lost a plot, and he needs actually to be careful not to get himself into too much trouble. Remember, even the likes of Trump have a boss. Don't think for 1 minute, guys, that he has the final say. They're all merely puppets on strings, and those strings can be cut quicker than it takes you to listen to this video. Right, that's it. I'm done. And you know what? I don't even know why I've got this picture up here. I mean, there was a purpose for it. I think it was just to just to show people how fucking mad people are going. And unfortunately, I look at this and say to myself, well, maybe we need a reset of some sort, because that's what's coming. A reset is on its way. So you see them people up there, okay, get all confused.com. Yeah, they're done. So if you feel if you fall into that category, you're going to be in a world of shit. Guys, as we finish, always just take a few steps back outside of the spotlight, look at the bigger picture from the outside in, and just filter out as much of that rubbish as you can, because that will obscure your vision, and it's basically going to deflect you from the truth. That's enough for me, guys. It was a quick video. I just wanted to get that out there. Just a quick rant about Trump and his merry-go-round of madness. Get yourselves military fit, infantry aware, keep an ear to the ground and prepare, guys. Listen, I've got to shoot. I've got a much more important video to get done. And as soon as that's done, you'll see it. Okay.